Oh man, I love that song. Love that band. Zach just saw that band. Friday night, downtown Toronto, the legendary Horseshoe Tavern. The place many say, the bar that Stompin' Tom built. Please no hockey song jokes. Please hold on to those. Zach, I want you to join here right off the top. And we got a lot to get to. Dave Jackson's going to be here in a second. Sarah Orlesky is going to talk to us about the Winnipeg Jets. And
yeah,
we're going to try to get excited about the Four Nations. Hasn't hit me yet, Zach. I thought by now, like all season long, I kind of said, yeah, you know what? By the time I get around the Four Nations, I'll get more excited about it. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe Wednesday comes along. I'll be as gung-ho as I was when I was 8 years old watching, was that 8 or 7? Canada Cup 76, which was the first big one for me. I was too young for 72. Or 1987 Canada Cup or 96 World. Like, so Vancouver, Sochi, these tournaments. Maybe I'll get that excited, but I just can't. I just don't have it to fake the funk, is what I'm saying, no. Zach. I don't have it to fake the funk. Do you?
I'm not there either. I kind of was at first when they announced it because I think it was the concept of, hey, we get international hockey back. That was what was exciting. No. And then from that point, it was kind of just like,
okay,
I don't know if I care. I don't know if I do.
Yeah, I know. Let's see what happens by Wednesday. We'll give it a shot, but we're not going to lie to you. Like, that's the nice thing about doing the show. Don't got to pretend to be geared up about something that I really give about 2/3 of the square root of sweet FA about. It's okay. You just be honest.
Yeah.
By the way, before we get into today's show, and I have a point to make about Canada versus USA and the theory of, as the Kinks would say, give the people what they want. That is a sick hat you're wearing. Small Town Strip Club. How was the show on Friday? I was super jealous that you got to go to this one. I got to catch them on their tour. They still got a lot of dates. Yeah. Small Town's got Hamilton, Guelph, Kelowna, Woodstock, Stratford, London. So I got some time here to go see Small Town. But give us the nickel and dime tour of you, plus your buddies, plus the Horseshoe, plus the awesome band that is Small Town Strip Club.
Yeah, so Friday night got to go see Small Town Strip Club. It was really cool. Got to meet a bunch of the guys from the band, first of all, before they went on, and then stuck around and talked to some of them after as well. My first time at the tavern, I was texting you like during it.
Yeah, I know.
It was a super cool venue. Like it was awesome. You go in the front.
Did you barf?
Like this little
Did you barf in the bathroom? You haven't barfed. You haven't lived till you barfed the Horseshoe. Come on.
I did not.
Youth.
But like it's like these little like normal like Queen Street bar at the front, and then you keep walking, and then there's a lady there that gives you a stamp, and it's like bang, there is a stage and a big concert area and tables and everything. It's an awesome venue, and they were unbelievable. So it was really cool. My buddies also loved it too because they didn't know like what Small Town Strip Club was really. I told them, and then when I was playing the music before we went, they were like, "Oh yeah, I know this song, Cheap Shot, because it's in Spin Chicklets." The Spin Chiclet spot, and then we played through on a record, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's in your show."
Same band. Yeah. And then they got the market corner. They got the market corner on soundtracks for hockey pods. These guys are smart.
And I kept playing other stuff, and then they're like, "This is awesome!" Like everyone was pumped up to go. Everyone had a great time. It was an awesome night, and they hooked us up with the hat. I got one for myself. I've got one for you as well. So yeah, we've got some merch from the boys.
Awesome. Well, listen, let's throw up those tour dates a little bit later on in the show because I want to get our friends out there, anyone that participates in the show, watches the show, listens to the show. If you get a chance, go check out Small Town Strip Club from Stratford, Ontario. All right. A couple of things. In the spirit of just give the people what they want. We all know what the desired outcome is here. What has everyone been talking about this? Four Nations. What does everybody want?
There's two nations.
Yeah, everyone just wants Canada U.S. final.
Interested
Everybody wants to watch Canada U.S. on Saturday and the anthems and the booing and the flags and all that stuff, and they just want to see Canada U.S. So here's the thing, like just stop with the we're gonna have a fake international tournament here and other countries will be involved and here's the Finns and here's the Swedes and like no, best 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Canada versus the United States. One of the things that I think this is a real lesson for people. It's been a lesson for me as I've gotten older and tried to understand like essentially what people want and how to give it to them. What we do in media specifically is we overcomplicate things that are really, really simple. And the most successful properties, whether it's media, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, is when people realize what people want and then quadruple down on it. All that people want right now, and the political situation has thrown a real log onto this fire as well, is Canada versus the United States. Like, that's it. This is like Summit Series 72, although now it's not Canada versus Russia / then Soviet Union. This is Canada versus the United States. For the longest time, we've always wondered whether the future of international hockey was going to be Canada versus the U.S., and the answer is yes, and the answer is now, and the answer is this is what people want. So just give it to them. So don't worry about the criticism of, oh, it's not a real tournament. No, it's not. It's just a Summit Series. No, you know what? People want to see Canada versus the U.S., so just give it to them. Like, can we have an environment where we're just honest and say that people just want to see, and again, Sweden, no offense, love you. Yeah. Finland, no offense, love you. I'm actually cheering for Finland in this tournament, considering how decimated that blue line is specifically. I want to see Finland do well. I want to see a Finland-Sweden final. I always cheer for the Swedes, too. I always had a soft spot for Swedish hockey. That goes back to when I was a little kid idolizing Börje Salming. But people want to see the United States versus Canada. Just give it to them. 5 games, 7 games, whatever. Just give that to them. You with me? You against me? Where are you at in the chat?
No, I'm with you, and I'm reading the chat and trying to see where everyone's at. I put up a poll too when we started, so if you haven't yet, go vote on the poll. Like the stream, by the way, as well. I'm gonna do it so that Jeff doesn't have to do it. Like the stream, but I gave 4 options here, Jeff. Are you excited about the 4 nations? Could not be more excited. 17%. It's cool, but not over the top. 42%. Meh, neutral. 28%, and 12%. I don't care about this at all. Which I think is probably a reasonable response to this. It's like, okay, yeah, we get to see some Canada-US. We get to see best on best doing it like in a setting, not like the traditional ones that we see with Olympic hockey, but we get to see it. Otherwise, it's whatever. It is what it is. And I think that's kind of the general sentiment of the chat. And on top of that, I did see there, I'm just trying to find the comment, but it was like someone said, J-Rock, I want to see the Finns and the Swedes. I do too, but in a setting like this, I'm kind of... It's not the story. It's not what I'm as excited to see. In Olympic hockey, yeah, I love seeing that kind of stuff because you're playing the whole tournament, the whole thing's involved, all their places. Like, it makes it more real, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Canada, U.S. in Montreal and Boston. Finland versus Sweden in Stockholm, Helsinki. Done.
Yes.
How about that? Just do that.
I subscribe to that.
Here's the other thing. I was having a conversation with someone about this over the weekend. In a lot of ways, because this is the sort of warm-up, this is the chumming of the water for the Olympics next year. This is what we keep hearing. Oh, players are going to want to go for it because they don't want to miss a spot on the Olympic team. And we know how political it can be with Hockey Canada specifically about, well, they didn't do this tournament, said no over here, and so we're not going to have them on, blah, 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 blah. See where that got Hockey Canada with the World Juniors. With players not going to the Hlinka. And Canada can't score at the World Juniors. So here's the thought. The thought is that if the real prize, which it is the Olympics, perhaps the best case scenario, and someone put in the chat, Jeff hates Canada. It's pretty funny. I do get that. Put in America. Maybe the best outcome for Canada, if you're cheering for Canada, is for a Canadian loss. And here's why. If Canada loses this thing, they will be forced, much like at the World Junior level, to make hard decisions and not emotional ones, and not ones that are based on loyalty. Like if Canada wins this tournament, will there not be a feeling of run it back again with the same crew? I know Brad Marchand's going to be 38 and Drew Doughty's going to be whatever. Like if Canada loses, again, it's a better scenario for choosing Team Canada for the Olympics, which is the bigger prize than the 4 nations face-off. Agree, disagree.
Yeah, because you're thinking like auto bid. Like they win, it's just bang, you're on the team. Like we need this whole team
Can't
going back
change a winning
together
lineup,
as is.
Zach. How many times did you hear that playing hockey growing up in AAA and the OMHA? Oh, can't change
Yeah,
a winning
if it ain't
lineup.
broke,
Sorry,
don't
you're health
fix it.
bombed again.
Yeah, and, I mean, I guess, yeah, and because I feel like at that point they start to overlook, hey, this guy's not actually playing up to the standards of our Olympic hockey team, and probably shouldn't be on it. Well, he won at the Four Nations, so we got to have him. Yeah, I am curious though, and I'll push back on you. Do you not think that there would be like an organizational understanding within Hockey Canada after what just happened at the World Juniors that even if you do win, like they can't sit around at the table and have the conversation? Because I do agree, and I think that would have been more of a thing in years past, but I wonder if that's changed now just based on what we just saw.
Pablo in the chat, Jeff is pushing a tank scenario for Team Canada.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I'm just
You're
saying,
like
what's
the
the best?
don't
if
do
you're,
the bubble hockey.
if
Yeah.
you're a Canadian hockey fan, eyes on the prize, folks. Olympics, not the Four Nations face-off. All right, coming up on today's show, we got a lot to get to and a couple of great guests that I'm really looking forward to talking to and with. Daily Outline presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. And coming up on the program today, we've kind of already wagged our tongues about the Four Nations. And don't forget Daily Face-Off Live tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel, live from Montreal. We will talk about officiating, and this coming off a very disturbing piece of video that most, if not everybody, has seen by now in Seattle over the weekend, where an angry parent ran onto the ice and assaulted a pair of officials who were 13 and 14 years old. So thought it might be a good idea, and Dave Jackson is aboard, former NHL referee, now NHL rules analyst for ESPN, and a real authority when it comes to this. And he can speak to it because not only has Dave been through it himself, but his son is a linesman in the NHL. He had another son who was an official and then left to go to law school and is now smarter than everybody and a great guy. So we'll talk to Dave Jackson about this as well. And just a sort of state of officiating and things that officials go through. And I do have a couple of ideas that I want to float out there for how to actually try to make things better for officials in hockey. That'll work on both sides of the border. Also, here's my big question for Sarah Orlesky, who I think we've all admired for years, whether it's working with the Jets or working with TSN. She's one of the more brilliant broadcasters this country has, delivers so well. Here's a question about the Winnipeg Jets. Sarah Orlesky, are things great or really great for the Winnipeg Jets right now? The team that can do no wrong. Holy smokes! Are they? There's just some teams that they don't want to have a break at all. They just want to keep on rolling. So we'll talk plenty about the Winnipeg Jets coming up with Sarah Orlesky as well. Winners of 8 in a row heading into this break. And did you see Jamie Benn on the weekend? Did you see Jamie Benn and the Dallas Stars against the San Jose Sharks, more specifically, as we say in the Atlantic, on Saturday? It was a beatdown. And the highlight for me, and I can't stop watching it, Zach, you may be the same way, and I can't stop laughing about it. Did you see the 8th goal of the game? Jamie Benn, breakaway, lazy wrist shot, scores, 0 celebration, 1 tiny little fist bump, doesn't go down the bench, no train, nothing, no Circle Sally, nothing. Sits his ass down and looks as grumpy as Jamie Benn has ever looked grumpy, and that is often. I've told you before about my love of grumpy hockey players. Your Chris Prongers, your Ryan Kesslers, your Nikita Kucherovs. I love grumpy hockey players, and Jamie Benn is right up around the top, and that to me was the highlight of the weekend.
Yes.
So we'll get into all of that, and Dave Jackson's going to be joining us here in a couple of moments, NHL rules analyst for ESPN. A really disturbing bit of video that we saw that came out either last night or early this morning. I saw it early this morning, and so it's do we have the video in question so we're all on the same page here, Zach? Before we
yes,
get,
we have Dave as well.
We have Dave. Let's just bring Dave on, and we'll sort of talk through this. And I do have some details, and we are waiting for a statement. Oh, hang on. So Snow King Okay, so hang on. So Dave Jackson joins me now, former NHL referee, now NHL rules analyst with ESPN. So, Dave, first of all, thanks for joining me here today. I sort of wanted to do not like, hey, Dave, like, whenever I have you on, it's always like, well, what would happen? Is this a penalty? Should this be a penalty? What's this call? I don't want to go through the sort of the minutia of officiating. I just want to talk about like the human side of being an official, but I do have some news to share. So this is about the game last night. So it's a house league game in Seattle. It's a 12U game, and a parent hit the ice and assaulted two young officials. One of them age 13, one of them age 14. I still haven't heard back whether the kids are okay, but I can tell you now the answer is no, because even if they're physically okay, they've just went through a scenario where they were assaulted by a grown-up. So this is a game between Snow King and Seattle Junior. And Snow King has just released a statement. We're watching the video now. If you're watching the show, it's horrible. It's indefensible. There are some things where you can say, well, you have to look at the motivation and the game situation. No. Like some things are just black and white. Let me just read this statement that has just come out from Snow King. I just got this in my inbox. We are deeply sorry to learn of an incident at a local hockey game this past weekend at Kraken Community Iceplex, KCI, involving a spectator and two officials. The incident occurred during a youth hockey game involving a Snow King team. The individual was not a Snow King coach or volunteer. Snow King bylaws and spectator code of conduct expressly prohibit this type of alleged conduct, and we are collaborating with our state associate Pacific Northwest Amateur Hockey Association and USA Hockey governing bodies to review next steps. Snow King strongly believes there is no room for poor behavior from any person at youth sports that endanger players, coaches, and referees, and has suspended this individual from Snow King ice arenas and any Snow King related events. That is from Wendy Rogers, Development and Marketing Director of Snow King Hockey. I've used up a lot of oxygen here, Dave. Thanks so much for joining me. You've seen the video. You have your own stories. I know your kids have their own stories as well. My brother-in-law is an official. What went through your mind when you saw this video? Let's start there.
Well, Jeff, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on with you. It brought back a lot of memories. I mean, first I saw it, it just made me sick. Barring the gentleman from the arenas is only the first step. He should be charged. I hope he's charged in a court of law. That's assault. It's not something that would be acceptable anywhere other than on the hockey rink, and I just hope it's not acceptable there either. But it brought back memories. I can remember the first time. I started refereeing hockey when I was 14 years old. And when I was 17, I moved up to basically travel hockey. I went from my own city to the whole island of Montreal. And I refereed a bantam game. It was a three-man system. I was the referee with the armbands. I refereed a bantam game between two teams. And it was a very hotly contested game. And when the game ended, and this had to be 45 minutes after the game, I walked out the front door of the arena to be met by a group of 10 parents who physically jumped me, all 10 of them, sucker punching me over my head. I was down on the ground. They were kicking me. We obviously got the police involved, and I really don't think much came of it from the police. And I quit refereeing at that point. I told my mentor, a man named Doug Hayward, who has gotten a lot of NHL referees to the NHL. He was a supervisor. I told him I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. And he said, okay, I respect that. I understand that. But I'm going to call you back in 2 weeks just to make sure that's your final answer. And he gave me about 2 days, called me and said, come on, don't let this ruin a promising career. And I'm glad I listened to him. I came back, but it was a terrible experience to go through. And as you said, are they fine? Well, maybe physically they're fine, but that's going to leave a scar. That's going to leave a mental scar. I was almost 18 at the time. That's still pretty young, but yeah. I can't imagine that happening at 14 because I think that might have been my last game if it had happened.
Those two players, by the way, I was told this afternoon are both players as well. Like this is very much like, and this is the one thing that I wanted to get to. So those two officials rather, are also hockey players in youth hockey in Seattle. As I go through this as a hockey parent with both my kids, like we've all seen horrible things. I've never seen anyone assault an official like you got assaulted, Dave. In men's league, I've heard stories, crazy stories. Again, my brother-in-law has told me plenty of stories that he's been involved in or heard from other officials about what has happened. But the thing that I've been trying to put forward, and I don't even know how you would administrate this, but I just know under the spirit of what's good for the game and what's healthy for youth hockey and what's healthy for grown-ups as well. Like, let's be honest too, like there's like a whole other side of this with like diseased minds about venting your own petty frustrations at officials. I would love it if somehow USA Hockey and Hockey Canada could come up with a program where every single player who plays has to do essentially volunteer work. How would you describe it? Has to officiate a certain amount of games every year. I think it would be good for the kids because they would see how hard it is to officiate a game, and two, it would be really good for the parents to sit in the stands and watch their kid officiate a game and hear other parents unload on their kids. I think like I have a hard time finding any holes, and like I know look at me, oh look, there's my navel, I'm my great idea, I'm so, but I have a hard time finding anything negative about that scenario whereby part of your development as a youth/minor hockey player, you have to also along the way officiate games. Could you get behind that?
I could absolutely get behind that. I've said that for years. I think it should be part of your registration process. I think you should be forced to referee, even if it's a handful of games, because I've talked to people my age who were much better hockey players than I ever was. They went on to play D1 and some semi-pro, and they said, I tried refereeing my kid's squirt game one time, and I was getting yelled at by parents that I know, and I'll never do it again. I never realized how hard a job it is. And I don't think people realize how hard a job it is. The external pressure coming from all sides, and it's a real eye opener to get there on the ice and now realize that all the things you complained about, now they're within your control, and you have that whistle, and you go ahead and you do the job that you think you can do. And most people would fail miserably at it, and I think it would be a great idea. I also think one easy way, I shouldn't say nothing's easy. It's never going to stop completely.
Sure.
But if I was a coach in the minor hockey league level, I think it would start with me not abusing officials. That doesn't mean you can't point out mistakes or yell at an official from time to time, but you need to have respect. So I think it starts with the coach, and then I think it starts with a parent meeting saying, listen, I don't tolerate disrespect from myself, from my players. If I see or hear disrespect from the stands, then I'm taking it out on your kid and he'll be benched. It might be tough for the kid, but listen, it starts at home. So if you let the parents know, we're not going to tolerate it from you, and if we do see it, it's going to impact your child. Maybe that, might be the beginning of something.
It's interesting in this scenario. I was talking to someone this afternoon who's, let's just say, around this story. And we were talking about the victims here. And the two most obvious victims are the two young officials, the 13 and 14-year-old. And this person brought up another point, too, and said, like, look, like that parent's son who is in that game is also a victim here. All those kids that are on the bench that saw that are victims here. And plenty of people that were in the stands having to see that are victims here. Like, this is one of those things that poisons the well for everybody and sort of, moves along this idea of, you know what, maybe it's better at the youth/minor hockey level. Maybe we don't have parents in the rink. Maybe they're just some games that are so hot, you know what, officials just say, you know what, everybody out. Everybody out of the pool. Let the kids play.
I think that's extreme. I don't think it's fair to the parents and the kids that do manage their emotions. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I just think you can't dumb everything down to the lowest common denominator. You have to just make the people accountable that need to be held accountable. And you know what? Kids quit refereeing, like you said. Kids quit refereeing, or there's parents that see that their kid might come to them next year and say, I want to referee, Dad. And he goes, not a chance. You're not refereeing because of stuff he's witnessed. Yeah. And I think what a lot of, sorry, go on.
No, please finish. Please
well,
finish.
I think what a lot, and not all, because there's some very good organizations, both in Canada and south of the border, But I think what a lot of organizations neglect is paying money for supervision for officials, because now this is an extreme case where two kids got assaulted. But let's just take a case where two kids, 13 and 14 years old, are being berated all night. They're being berated by both coaches. They're being berated by a bunch of parents. And they come off that ice with no supervisor in the stands. And they talk to each other and they say, geez, maybe we aren't very good. Maybe this is not for us. Whereas if there's a supervisor in the stands, some kind of mentor who comes in after the game and says, listen, guys or girls, you did a great job. You did exactly what we asked of you. You called the penalties you had to call. You showed a lot of guts out there. You did what you had to do. And you guys are really good at this. I can tell you from experience, all that yelling and external stuff disappears. Yeah. You've made the guy proud that it's your mentor, and he's told you doing a good job. You're coming back to that rink the next day. Now, imagine showing up to hockey in October with your parents, and the parents asking, who's coaching Johnny this year? And the convener says, we're not going to have coaches. We're just going to give you a mini training camp, and then we're going to throw the players out there on the ice with no coach and let them figure it out on their own. The parents will be shaking their head, losing their minds. But that's what happens in a lot of cases with referees. They get a preseason training camp, they get accredited, and then they're out there on their own refereeing hockey games. There's no support network, but that costs money. It's like reshingling the roof on your house. It costs a lot of money, and nobody really notices it. But if you don't do it, the house falls down.
Just got a quick note, Dave, from someone there. Confirmation that one of the two, we don't know about the second kid, but one of those officials in question is, in quotations, physically fine. I just haven't heard about the second official, but one of them, I'm told, is physically okay, which is good news. Let me, I'll be blunt, Dave. Let me personalize this for you as the father of officials. We watch Ryan. I know that Shane officiated as well. First of all, what did you say when they talked about wanting to become officials?
Well, first off, my son Shane, the older son, they're almost 32 now. He wanted to referee. He kind of thought it'd be cool to do. He played travel hockey, but he wanted to make some money on the side and referee. And he became a referee when he was 15, I think. He refereed for 2 or 3 years. This is a pretty high caliber hockey for his age. And he decided, it wasn't for him. A big part of it was the abuse from coaches and from parents. And, he decided to go to law school, got his law degree, and now he's a NHLPA certified agent.
And smarter than I know Shane. He's smarter than all of us too. Talk to him and like, you're too smart for this, Shane.
Right, exactly. I actually have a funny anecdote about him refereeing, but my younger son had zero interest in refereeing. He wanted to play in the NHL. Yeah. He ended up playing hockey in college. He ended up playing semi-pro hockey for 2 years, realized he wasn't going to make the NHL, and he took advantage of the NHL's officiating combine in Buffalo every year, went to that, made an impression, spent a year in the American Hockey League as just a local linesman, and then got signed to a minor league deal, and now he's on a 50-50 NHL American League contract as a linesman. It's his third year, and he's loving it. But I think the abuse at the NHL level is much less. There's a lot more external pressure.
Sure,
the games mean a lot more, but the physical abuse just doesn't happen at that level.
One of the things, and I guess this is probably true about other sports, although I don't know other sports the way that I know hockey. It's almost as if, as it comes to officiating now, that it's sort of normalized behavior to have a go at officials every single game. And, I believe you have a story about something going back to the Atlanta Thrasher days about, people that you wouldn't expect just unloading on officials because, that's what we thought hockey was all about. That's part of the scary thing here too.
Well, exactly. And Atlanta is not a traditional, hotbed of hockey like Montreal,
sure,
Toronto, Winnipeg. So, they had just had they had the Atlanta Flames several years ago, and then the Thrashers came back. First year of the Atlanta Thrashers season, I was doing a game, and the first period ended and score was 0-0. We had one minor penalty for tripping. So, I mean, there was zero going on in that game. Nobody was mad at anyone. No one was mad at me. So I'm used to taking abuse from the fans, and they pay their money. And as long as it's only verbal, that's their right to do that. But when you come into my house and try and abuse me, that's a little bit different. So here I come. I'm skating off the ice where the Zamboni comes on, and there's a rubber mat. And just sort of standing 1 foot on the mat, there's this guy in a 3-piece suit, very well dressed, and he's just giving it to me like vulgarities, and he's yelling at me and telling me where to pull my head from and all that. And I'm kind of running because, you come off the ice, you're gliding, you hit the mat, you take a few steps kind of running. Yeah. But I slam the brakes on. I turn around. I'm looking. I turn to our security guy and I go, "Who is this guy? Like, he's not in the stands. He's blocking my way to get to my room, and he's just giving it to me." He goes, "I don't know who he is, but what do you want me to do?" I go, "I'll throw him out of the building." I mean, it's kind of extreme, but we're allowed to eject fans if we want. I was like, "Get rid of this guy." So I go in the room and I close the door, having a Gatorade. There's a knock on the door about 5 minutes later, and it's a security guy. He goes, "Listen, Dave, this is a really unique set of circumstances here." The guy in the suit was about to go on the ice to present like a large donation check for some children's charity.
Oh, no.
and he's like the vice president of this, I won't even say the name of the company, very well-known company. Yeah. And he says if he gets kicked out for this reason and doesn't present the check, he's going to get fired. I said, "Well, did you ask him why he was giving it to me so bad?" Yeah. He says, "Well, quote, it's my first hockey game ever, and all I know about hockey is people yell at the referees. So I just thought I was being part of the game." That was his honest answer. He goes, "I know nothing about hockey." So I kind of laughed and I went, "Hey, well, did he learn his lesson?" He goes, "Oh, he's almost in tears." I said, "Well, then drop it and tell him to be better next time, right?" But I mean, that's just sometimes the culture. Like they just see whether it's a blue baseball umpire or a striped referee, like they just think it's their right to yell at the guy.
Did I ever tell you what Crosby told me? Did I ever tell you this story, Dave? No. So this is years ago. I want to say this like 5 years ago at the NHL Players Tour. Before they moved to Vegas, it used to be in Chicago every year. And I remember interviewing Crosby, and I said, not that I'm trying to wrap up your career here, Sid, but when you look back at your career, we always think about the highlights and the trophies and the cups and all these types of things, gold medals, golden goal, all these things. What do you regret? And right away, you know what he said? He goes, "If I could change anything, I'd go back and change the way that I talked to officials when I was a rookie." He said, "I was awful." He said, "I've spent a lot of years apologizing in my career. When I started, I was terrible. And I've spent a lot of time saying, look, I'm sorry about how I behaved when I was 18 or 19 years old." Have you had many players come up to you as they get older and once they start to realize just how difficult the gig is, come up to you and say, "You know what, back when I was, 20, I was a real jerk. I'm sorry about that"?
You know what? Not so much from the past, but I've had players come up to me later in a game after they behaved a certain way and apologize. Or I've had players come after the game and apologize for what they said, or possibly the next game. It's funny you say with Sid, because there were two things I remember about Sid. One was a game in Buffalo, and after a penalty field game in Buffalo. And I called him for cross-checking, which in my opinion was a blatant cross-check. And he disagreed vociferously. Like, he did not think he cross-checked this guy. And he was telling me to go look at it between periods and, feel shame, basically. And come back. and then come back and, basically apologize to him for that call. And I skated on the ice next period, and he was the first guy out before his team. He made a beeline to me with his head down, and he just was shaking his head. He said, "I watched the between periods, and I am very sorry. Shouldn't have spoken that way. I deserved that penalty, and please forgive me." And I don't hold a grudge, and I thought that was very respectful. And then my final time ever refereeing the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sid came over to me during one of the last commercial stoppages. And he said a lot of nice things about our interactions through the years, and it was very sincere. And I never asked him for anything, but there was a knock on the door after the game, and trainer came over with a stick signed by Sid with some very nice things written on the blade. I mean, he's just a class act. So I never found him that bad when he came in the league, but he's certainly made amends, and he's one of the classiest and most gentleman-like players that the league has. They're lucky to have him.
For sure. One of the things that I've felt this way for a long time. Curious your thoughts on this one. I think one of the reasons why people, I'll just focus on the NHL here. Fans, players, coaches feel comfortable unloading on officials is because they don't, it's going to sound harsh, but I think you know what I'm getting at. They don't look at them as if they're human beings like everybody else. And what I want to get to here is I think that the NHL would do a lot of good humanizing officials by doing one thing, and that's putting their names back. Putting the names back on the sweaters. You know, I go back and I watch a ton of hockey games, and I always love that shot of, okay, here are the starting goalies, now let's meet the officials. And it personalized them, and it made them human as opposed to just robots that are making calls that you feel you can unload on because you're not relating to them as Ron Hogarth. You're not relating to them as, Finn or Chick or, you're not related D'Amico. Like, you're not relating to them like they're people like you and me. Does that resonate with you or no? I've always felt that way, that it's like everybody else gets a name. Everybody else gets to have a nickname. And I know that everybody knows each other, but it's almost like the referees are sort of removed from that, and you're not supposed to know their names. It's like it's really right. It almost feels like really impersonal to me.
Well, I would say that's twofold. Whenever I lecture or teach at amateur hockey camps, I always tell the referees if they ever have a chance to go over and introduce yourself to the coach. I don't mean necessarily on the ice. Could be in the lobby before the game having a coffee, because I think a coach is less likely to yell at Jimmy than he is to yell at just a striped shirt.
Yes.
And if he knows you personally,
yes,
he knows he's now yelling at Jimmy and not just a robot in stripes. At the NHL level, I'm old enough to have started my career wearing my name on the back of my jersey, and that was the pinnacle of success for a young referee, because growing up, nobody had names in their jersey. It's just the NHL. You didn't have it in junior hockey. You didn't have it in AAA hockey. You had to wait to get to the NHL to get your name on the back of your sweater. So I had it. And when they took it off, it did disappoint me. I was very proud of that. But it didn't take long to realize that everybody still knew who I was. The fans, the players, the coaches, they all know your name. And being out there on the ice without my name on my back doesn't make me feel one bit less known than when I had my name on my back. Everybody, any player that's been in the league more than a year knows who you are.
Okay, let me close with this. I've taken up so much of your time today, and you're supposed to be on a break here. It's the Four Nations. Merrick's dragging me on his show. Jeez, I'm trying to enjoy my day. Advice for young officials. Like, there's going to be a lot of, like, everyone's going to see this. Like, I'm going to the rink here in about 20 minutes, and everyone's going to be talking about this. And this is going to be true of rinks all across North America specifically. What's your advice to young officials that see that? Because everyone's going to see it. Players are going to see it. Parents are going to see it. And officials are going to see that. Like, young officials will see this. What does Dave Jackson say to them?
Well, to the two officials involved, I say, I just give you my sympathy and can't tell you how sorry I am that happened. It should never happen. It's inexcusable. But to them and the officiating community at large, and to potential officials, do not let this temper your enthusiasm to become an official, because being a hockey official is extremely rewarding. Not everybody gets into it to make the NHL. You can get into it to make a little bit of pocket money, to get exercise, to stay in the game. And it's amazingly beneficial as a confidence booster to people that might be a little bit timid and all that, to have to skate over to an adult and explain to them, this is your call, this is why you made it, and you're going to have to live with it, sir, and skate away. That's the freedom that gives you, both emotionally and mentally. I think it does wonders to boost your self-confidence. It really, really does. And to all the adults out there, thank you to the ones that are great supportive adults, and to the ones that aren't, just be better. This is disgraceful, and there's no place in hockey or in society for this type of behavior.
You're the best. I've said it before. I'll say it again. And everyone in the chat's saying it. Randy Workman, Dave Jackson is terrific. Yes, Randy, we all agree. Thanks, pal. Really appreciate you jumping on today on a pretty difficult day in the officiating community and for all of hockey, really. This isn't just exclusive to officials. Like you, I hope those kids are okay. It sounds like one is, at least physically. But at the point about mentally, man, the effects of this will be wide-reaching. Thanks for sharing your expertise as always, Dave. We really appreciate it.
Anytime, Jeff. Thanks, man.
There he is, the great Dave Jackson. Former NHL referee. You can see his son Ryan still in the NHL, but not Shane. He's gone to law school, and he's like smarter than everybody now. Always appreciate Dave stopping by. And yeah, like it's gross. We've all seen it. There's no even coming close to defending it. You know, one of the things that someone mentioned to me, because we wonder, like, what would make a parent do that, to jump on the ice like that, to assault an official. And someone who was there told me that the parent in question was upset that his kid got kicked out of the game for fighting. Just let the irony of that sink in. Okay, to happier things. Sarah Orleski, Jets reporter, joins me now on the sheet, the Maiden Voyage, one of our favorites. As the Winnipeg Jets, Sarah, I'm guessing, did not want this break at all. Thank you very much. You talk about like galloping into a break. That's what the Winnipeg Jets are doing. First of all, I know you're super busy, sports mom. Thanks for parking time. You and I are both sports Ubers, so we're simpatico that way. I'm guessing Winnipeg didn't want this break, or did they?
Well, I think it comes at a good time for them, actually, Jeff. So in terms of momentum, probably not, because they've won 8 of their last 10 games. They've won 8 straight. Obviously, they're sitting on top of the NHL standings right now in terms of wins and points. But I think that this break comes at a good time in order to try to get some guys healthy. You know, they've been without Adam Lowry over this 8-game win streak. They haven't had Morgan Barron. They've got some other guys that are dealing with some bumps and bruises. And I think just mentally as well, people need this break. It has been such a grind, and I'm sure, you know, it's been that way for every team so far. And you've probably heard so many different people comment on it. Just this constant playing every other night schedule that they have had, I think has really taken a lot of them. I know I was really looking forward to the break, so I can only imagine how much players were, because the every other night games were, you know, we're taxing, I think, on everybody. So, so I think that in that sense, it comes at a good time. The question will be, obviously, can they maintain that momentum, pick it back up when things return in a couple of weeks?
No team is perfect. We all know that. And if I was going to sort of, you know, pick things apart here with the Winnipeg Jets and really try to, you know, sharpen the pencil on what they need, I'd say like, oh, they need a second line center. And then I say to myself, well, you know what? Namestnikov's been really good. Like, he's been really good in that spot. Like, Sarah, you're a lot closer to it. You're there, the games, the practices, all of it, the meeting, talking to the players, the coaching staff. Based on what you've seen, heard, and how well you know this organization, put yourself in the brain of Kevin Cheveldayoff here. What do you think he's thinking about, perusing, investigating in advance of trade deadline for this team that's not slowing down?
No, and I think that Namestnikov has done a really good job. We've heard him ever since he's arrived in Winnipeg being described as that Swiss Army knife that's being able to be utilized in a variety of different spots up and down the lineup. And he's done a good job with that second line. That second line, you know, which typically has had Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers on it, has gone through their ebbs and flows, certainly this season. Sometimes where they haven't been able to produce offensively and you've been looking for more from them. We saw when Namestnikov went out, Adam Lowry got pushed up into that role. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I feel as if every trade deadline since this team has really returned to Winnipeg, we've always said that they're looking for depth down the middle, someone that can fill that second line role. It wouldn't surprise me if that's something that they are still looking at. But if you're not able to find it, This is a team that has played so well this season as a team. They have gotten contributions across the board, and it seems that wherever they've had to put players in to deal with injuries, or if they've tried to shake things up just because, in small spurts the offense hasn't been going, guys have been able to step up and fill that void. Do I think that if you're looking at a long playoff run, would you like more depth down the middle? Yes, because if something happens to Nemesnikov, a Lowry, a Scheifele, I don't think that they have the depth there that you would want for a long-term or a long playoff run that they're obviously hoping to have this spring.
Okay, let me have a hockey hipster conversation with you here. When the attention turns to the Winnipeg Jets, like, listen, Hellebuyck takes a lot of the oxygen out of the room, and rightfully so. Like, the guy's he's fantastic, right? Having a Hall of Fame career. And Mark Scheifele takes a lot of the oxygen out of the room as well, and for good reason, and Josh Morrissey, etc. But when I get my hockey hipster on, I like talking about Dylan Sandberg. And I was like, the one guy who doesn't get, we've talked about the one guy who doesn't get the headlines, doesn't get it, etc. If you're going to have a hockey hipster conversation about the Winnipeg Jets, who does Sarah Orlesky turn to? Is it Dylan Sandberg, or is there an even greater hockey hipster conversation to be had on the Winnipeg Jets? The one player that everybody's missing out on, the band that no one's heard.
Well, I think that Sandberg certainly, I mean, is a great choice to fill that role because of what he's meant to this team. Last year, so he was in the third pairing role. There's the questions about what was going to happen with Brendan Dillon when he didn't re-sign with the Jets, and who was going to fill in on that second pairing left side. And the expectation was that it was going to be Sandberg. That was going to be his spot really to lose. But you still don't know exactly how he's going to make that transition, because you're not just talking about the additional minutes. And I mean, they're substantial compared to what he was playing in on that third pairing. And he has the penalty kill responsibilities, but it's not just, to me, the minutes, it's also the opposition that he's going up against, right? You're not sheltering him in that third pairing. He's going up against a lot of the top six players on the opposing teams, and the expectations were great for him. And he has met all of them. I think that he has made such a smooth transition into it. And Scott Arniel's been asked about it throughout this season. Just, is there anything that surprised you about it? Because even though people felt this was what he was being groomed for, to take that next step, and it was inevitable it was going to happen, it just seems to have gone smoothly. And there's sections of the season where he's being sidelined. He broke a bone in his foot blocking a shot, and so he was out of the lineup for a while. And you just notice the difference in the group, the impact that it had not having him in that lineup on the penalty kill. He will go out there, and I mean, he throws himself in front of any puck there, and just that stabilizing piece, because not only did he impact special teams, and you had to, again, move players up the lineup and play more minutes than perhaps they're used to. He has been a great pairing with Neil Pionk. Those two, they've known each other for years. They grew up in the same part of Minnesota, and so the same town. And so they're Hermantown, Minnesota boys. And so they've known each other forever. And so the chemistry that they've had, they just work so well. So I thought that when Dylan was out of the lineup, not only did it impact the blue line, it specifically impacted what we saw from Neil Pionk too. So he's been great. And he is a great character. Like, Sandberg is a funny guy, Jeff. I don't know how much you've had the opportunity to talk to him.
Oh yeah.
But he's got a great personality. He's got a great personality with him too. I mean, just even around the room with what he is. So, but he's one that certainly, I think, a lot of people outside this market, or if you don't pay a lot of attention to the Winnipeg Jets yet, then you wouldn't be familiar with what Sandberg's done. But he's definitely, to me, he's made the biggest jump this season.
How great is Eric Comrie? Just from a personality point of view, I mean, the net minding off the side, like, it's funny too, whenever I play clips of Eric Comrie, I'm just like, he's going to take all of our jobs if he decides that he wants to do media when he's done.
So how about this? I'm just editing a feature on him right now. And so I had asked him he made a comment about one day joining the broadcast. And I said, would you like to get into media when you're finished playing? And he goes, yeah, maybe. I just don't know if I'd have enough to say.
Oh,
and we just, I don't think that'll be His wife was with us as well, and his wife goes, I don't think that's an issue.
What you should have said is like, yeah, I don't think you can afford the pay cut is more like it, Eric, for crying out loud.
100%. But you know what? He has been so he has been so great as well for that room and for years. So Eric Comrie's come and gone throughout this Jets organization many times over, right? Whether it be on waivers or he signed back as a free agent this summer. And every time he comes back, everyone is so happy, not only from the community relations side and the foundation sides because of the work that he does within the community, but in the room because he doesn't really have a bad day, it seems, in terms of his personality. He's always smiling. He's gregarious. And that was something Paul Maurice used to talk about. It's impossible to not be happy when you're around Eric Comrie, and he and Connor Hellebuck are very close friends. And they're kind of a yin and yang in terms of personality, at least outwardly what you see, they complement each other so well. And I think he's done a great job under the tutelage of Wade Flaherty. He speaks so highly of him. And even though his results haven't always been there, I don't put that on Eric. You know, for so long, he went through a stretch of 8 games where he was just getting no run support from the Jets for whatever reason.
It was so bad.
It was just, you know what, when they would lose, when he was in net, it wasn't that they lost. You just look at everyone and they go, oh, poor Eric. Because he'd play well and you just, as the goalie, you're going to wear it. And he shouldn't have been. And so we also joked around that, with so many close friends, Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey are 2 of his closest friends. I said, do you ever go to them and say, hey, just a little bit of help here? We're supposed to be best buds here. Do you think maybe you could pot one in the back of the net for me?
Nice.
But
just
finally, he's back. Yeah, exactly. You guys are averaging almost 4 goals a game as a team. When I'm not in net, any chance you could help out a bit? But he's back. He's won his last couple starts, and he's just being an absolute gem. And his honesty is incredibly refreshing, whether you're talking about a netminder or just a player in general.
Okay, you've got sports mom duty, but I want to close with this. It wasn't that long ago that everybody in Manitoba was taking back their empties, checking under every cushion to find every quarter to make sure that Barry Trotz was going to be the coach. And it seemed like Manitoba turned itself upside down. They're offering cars and free food and never have to buy a beer and everything. The whole province just wanted, the old Regina Pat defenseman, Manitoba's own Barry Trotz to join the mix. Where is the province of Manitoba at now? You got to go on re-signing Kyle Connor. Is everyone taking their empties back and making sure there's enough money for Kyle Connor, because this contract is going to be and should be a whopper here?
Well, I think a lot of people were probably pretty happy to see that the salary cap was going to be going up.
Big time.
That was good. That was certainly good news if you're looking at it from a Jets fan perspective, and I'm sure from Kevin Cheveldayoff's too, just in terms of some of the options that you have. Yeah, you definitely want to sign Kyle long term. And as much as there's the talk about the Jets and players, you look at the success that Kevin Cheveldayoff has had re-signing a number of his big stars, obviously most notably recently Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, and the chemistry that top line has, especially this season with Kyle Scheifele and then Gabriel Velarde. It's been great. And you know what? I think that he's certainly someone that you want to see this core remain together when you've got the players locked up long term that you do. He is obviously the next big piece. And he's one that I think, even though everyone knows how skilled he is, what he brings to a team, I think also he's still someone that flies maybe a little bit under the radar, just
True.
In terms of overall notoriety, just because he's such a quiet guy. You don't see a lot from him out in the media, but you certainly see the highlights from him and what a season he's been having. And the Jets are obviously hoping that when they return late February, that he's able to pick up where he left off, and that line is, because you need your best players to be at their best, and they certainly have been for the Jets so far this season.
Puck's on a stick, puck goes in. Okay, sports mom, your next job awaits. I know you got a heart out. You're the best. Always appreciate your contributions. Be well. Enjoy a break, knowing full well that in Sarah Orlesky's world, there is no such thing as a real break. You be well. We'll check back soon. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, I look forward to it. Anytime, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
There she is. The great Sarah Orlesky joining us here, Maiden Voyage on the Sheet. Yeah, Winnipeg looks great. I'm so happy for that organization, those fans, those players. I know that they're one of those teams, Zach, much like your Toronto Maple Leafs, where the questions are not in the regular season. The questions are all in the playoffs. And I just really hope that, this could be that year for the Winnipeg Jets. Like, have a deep run. Let your mind race off with the idea, well, we won the Avco Cup in the WHA once upon a time. Stanley Cup would look good. Anyhow, wish for good things with the Winnipeg Jets, and thanks to Sarah Oleski, as always, for stopping by. One of the best people that this industry has. I've always maintained if there are more people like Sarah Oleski in our business, what a great place it would be. Anything from either Dave Jackson or Sarah Oleski you found particularly salient, or were you just arguing with people in the chat?
No, I was just reading the chat. It's interesting with the Dave Jackson conversation because we have a lot of cool guests come on this show. And I think one of the things that I often find myself feeling is a lot of the times in line with the chat where it's like, that's really cool. We never get to hear that. We never get to see that. I didn't know that. The Dave Jackson conversation is very different because in many ways, I'm sure most, if not all of us, watching, myself being a part of this, you doing the show, everybody in hockey, around hockey, has had experiences with referees. Whether you're mad at them, whether you've seen people be mad at them, whatever, everyone has had those kinds of experiences, and sometimes having it humanized is probably the right word to describe it. Humanized these people as like they're just not referees. They are kids or, teenagers who are refereeing these situations, puts a lot of it into perspective a lot of times.
You ever tried it?
Look,
you ever tried officiating?
No, and I had no interest, whether it was getting abused or like just worry of making mistakes. I'd rather not be on that side of things. So it was something that I never had interest in. I had my fair share of experiences getting pissed off at referees while playing the game, whether it was lacrosse or hockey. And then you hear something like that and you kind of go, oh, yeah, whoops, I get it. And shouldn't have said or done those things. And it was just kind of interesting watching the chat there kind of experience that, listening to Dave as well at the same time.
Do you think that there's anything to the idea at the NHL level, even though everybody already knows who the officials are, the way that, and I think we all know, like when the referees went on strike and then the NHL took the names off the jersey, try to make them like, automatons and robots, like that was done deliberately. Right? Like, oh, okay, well, no more personality for these guys. I really do think that did a disservice to officials, because even if something is putting your name on your back, it does add a human element and a reminder that these people are human beings. As if you needed a reminder to begin with, you degenerates. These are human beings. And in the case of what happened in Seattle over the weekend, these are children. And the other thing that I want to get to here, I don't have a lot of time for it. Like one day I want to do a big thing on minor/youth hockey here. Part of I still maintain, and this is not going to be popular. Like I know full well I'm going to say this, and then right away it's going to be F you, Merrick. I don't care. I'm at a place in my life where I don't care. I think that there's a real problem in youth hockey and minor hockey in the parking lot, in the backs of trunks with alcohol, and parents having a few drinks before they go watch their kids play, and then just feeling loose enough to start unloading because they've just spent. You drop your kid off an hour before so they can do warm up, activation, all those things, and the parents go and drink in the parking lots. And then come in and are loose, and hockey's a flow game. Hockey's a very emotional game. Hockey's a violent game, and you see the worst come out of people. And I don't think that in a situation like that, alcohol makes anything better. As a matter of fact, it makes everything worse. And that doesn't get checked at all. My kids have been on teams where the parents will do bus trips, and the parents will be like, not just drinking, but like doing Jello shots. And I'm just sitting there like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Pre-gaming the Pee Wee hockey game.
I know, pre-gaming the U10s. Going to Kingston, got a pre-game. What? Got a 2.5-hour bus ride. Let's go. Who's got the job? What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? It's embarrassing. And again, I really hope those kids are okay, even though I know they're not. Physically, they might be okay.
I'll just say quickly on it, because you brought up the idea of the refs having it. I think it helps to an extent. There's still going to be the people who are going to go nuts are still going to go nuts. And I mean, honestly, the other thing I would point out would just be like someone I see who takes it a lot online would be like Wes McCauley. You know, Wes makes a call and go to Twitter, Jeff, search up his name after there's a call online, and it's, you know, shut the F up, stop doing the entertaining stuff, and worry about officiating. And it's like, well, dude, the guy cross-checked him in the teeth. That's probably a penalty, you know? Like, you can calm down here, but people still do it even if they know the guy's name. I would 100% agree that it's more, it would be more effective at the youth level, though. I think that makes it a kid with the name on his jersey, or like a 16-year-old with the name on the jersey, maybe alleviate some of that pressure a little bit more, where the parents are like, yeah, that's not just some kid wearing stripes, that's Merrick out there reffing tonight's game.
Yeah, screw that guy. That guy doesn't know his ass from page 6. Wrist shot, wrist watch. Merrick doesn't have a clue.
Also, Laz in the chat have me laughing.
What's Laz
You're
doing
talking
now?
a serious conversation. I see Laz in the chat. I used to ref roller hockey. A 12-year-old told me I was an effing moron. I tossed him out and he cried. It was awesome.
I just want to see I just want to meet the 12-year-old and shake that young man's hand. Say that to
Like, what?
All right, Laz. Thanks, bud. All right, a couple of things here as we that's really good. A couple of things here as we wrap things up. No games tonight. No games until Wednesday. But a couple of things to talk about still. I want to remind you, FanDuel, partner of this program, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. And tomorrow, Zach, here's our job. We're going to try to get excited about the Four Nations. All right? It's going to be a challenge for you and me. You try to drum it up, all right? Like, we're not going to fake it, right? We're not going to be like, we're rights holders and everything's great. Like, no. We're going to really try to care about this thing. And who knows? Like, maybe by the time Wednesday rolls around, we will. So here's your schedule. Wednesday, Canada against Sweden. 8 o'clock Eastern. Get excited. Thursday, USA against Finland. 8 o'clock Eastern. Get excited. Right? This is our job. This is our goal. We're going to get excited about this. And then Saturday, we get an afternoon game. All right? Sweden, Finland. They don't like each other, Zach. Let's get excited. You and me get excited about that game. And then there's the anthem game. USA versus Canada at 8 o'clock before the venue shifts to TD Garden in Boston. All these other games are at the Bell Center.
And at Greta Bar YYZ watch party, Nick and myself.
I know you'll be excited there and possibly well lubricated as well. Maybe like
yelling at officials.
Youth hockey parent after an hour and a half in the parking lot while your son or daughter does their activation before the game. We're going to get excited about all of this, Zach. That's going to be our goal for tomorrow. I do want to remind you, speaking of Four Nations, Daily Face-Off Live, hitting the road. They're in Montreal, live on location from Four Nations. Exclusive coverage right from the tournament, starting today all the way to the 20th. Tonight's show is 7 o'clock Eastern at our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. Live shows every weekday. Daily Face-Off Live on location from Four Nations, February 10th to 20th. They're turning Tyler Yaremchuk loose in both the cobblestone streets of Montreal and Boston. Zach.
Yep.
Tyler Yaremchuk. Now, we talked about some heavy stuff on the show here today. And I wanted to get that official stuff into. And as more information becomes available, we'll pass it on, both on this show, our social channels, etc. I want to end with something funny. We started the show talking about Jamie Benn, and damn it, we're going to end the show talking about Jamie Benn. I love grumpy hockey players. I love them. The older I get, the more I appreciate Stadler and Waldorf. The old Muppets. That's what I appreciate. That's who I'm here for. That's what I love. And maybe this is just a case of like, they just had the rookie party and he just wants to go home. It's the end of a 3-game road trip and Jamie Benn just wants to go home. To me, this is one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. To me, this is the funniest thing I've probably seen all season long. And I'm glad that our good buddy, former coach of the Kitchener Rangers, former U17 coach, Team Canada, Troy Smith, made a video for his Hockey IQ. Can I call it a school? I guess I can. He's doing sessions for his Hockey IQ videos. Made a video of Jamie Benn after scoring the 8th goal in the game against the San Jose Sharks on Saturday, and did something that's now become so envious to me that I would just, some things happen in hockey and just like, oh, wow, man, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have had this Jamie Benn celebration. What do we have, Zach?
Yeah.
What do we got?
I just so you know, I have the video of the celebration. I did put the link to the Vit Troy's video in the description because we were having some audio issues with that one going through, but it's in the description. But here's the Jamie Benn goal.
Jamie Benn on the breakaway, left-hand shot comes in, scores. Celebration? Nope. Train? Nope. To the bench and sit down. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Nothing along the bench. No stops. He skates right to the bench and sits his ass down. I think I've watched that thing like 50 times since Saturday. How many times have you watched that Jamie Benn sit your ass down video?
Yeah, I think like between 40 to 50 is probably a good number. When you told me about it, I sat watching it like over and over and over again and just couldn't stop laughing because the other thing I brought up to you was, I like the videos where the guy scores in a shootout or overtime and they skate straight off the ice. This far surpasses that for me. Like you sat on the bench during the game. It was like looking like there's 6 minutes too long left in this game.
It's 8-3. How about the laziest wrist shot too? Just like,
oh yeah, yeah,
like all of it.
I mean,
the lazy wrist shot. Like, let's watch it again. Like, he comes in, like, all right, breakaway. I guess we're still playing. Boop. Yeah, okay. A little fist bump along the way. Just sit down. Okay. So we're done. Can we go now? Can I just get to the towels and the oranges in the room, please? I'm just so done with this.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Thanks for having me. All right, we're out of here.
It's awesome. All right. And that's it for us. Anything we leave on the table today, or are we going to pick it up tomorrow? I want to talk about the Bruins tomorrow.
No.
Morning Cup of Hockey. I talked to Billy
things.
Jaffe about some Boston Bruins stuff, and I want to talk more about the Bruins tomorrow.
Yes, for sure. One thing I want to throw out there to people is we just played this Jamie Benn video throughout the week here as we've got Four Nations and hockey stuff. Yeah. Tweet at us, DM us, whatever it is, however it's easiest for you, at The Sheet Hockey on all platforms. Make sure to check us out there. Send in hockey videos that make you laugh. Yes. Tag us, tweet us, whatever. DM me personally, however it works best for you. I want to show them during this week, next week, however it goes. We'll spread them out. Send them to us because, there's Four Nations. There's not that much hockey going on. Even as we try to get excited, Jeff. We're going to get excited about it.
We're going to get into it.
Yes. Send those because I want to play them on the show here, and Jeff and I can have a laugh. Maybe we've seen them, maybe we haven't, but what makes you laugh? Yep. The other thing I'm going to throw out here, which maybe this will make you laugh as well, I do have some bets for the Four Nations. These are not advice, but I want to hear what people think because I see Laz gets roasted by his chat for his bets all the time.
Okay.
Here's what I've got, okay?
What do
You're going to notice a theme.
Oh, boy.
I have Sweden to win the Four Nations at plus 450. I have William Nylander to be the top point scorer on Sweden at plus 500. I have William Nylander to be the tournament's top goal scorer at plus 2,000.
Smokes. Get the
I have William Nylander to be the top goal scorer.
William Nylander to cure cancer after he reinvents oxygen. Flavored oxygen is next. Ooh, this new oxygen is minty. Molly, thank William Nylander for that, according to Zach.
So Nylander tournament top goal scorer plus 2,000. Nylander tournament top point scorer plus 3,000. and Sweden to get 9+ points in the tournament plus 900. So they would have to win all 3 round robin games because you get 3+ for regulation wins in those. Taking some long shots, taking some swings, and these are not advice, but those are the bets I've got. I wanted to get them out of the way here before the tournament starts.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you don't like it?
He'll never love you back.
That's okay.
He'll never love you back, Zach. No
That's
matter
okay.
how hard you try, he'll never love you back. Just like hockey.
You know,
He'll never love you back.
yes.
Hockey will never love you back.
One of the most disappointing things was Nylander's probably like my favorite player on the Leafs, just in terms of, you know, I feel like he shows up all the time. I love his swagger, his energy, all that. Yeah. The Amazon documentary that came out, I happen to be in it. I'm in it for 10 seconds talking.
What?
Yes, it's me saying, where is William Nylander? Why do we not know anything about this? And I'm like, no. The one thing I get grabbed for
You're roasting
is just
William
me saying
Nylander.
that. And the context of it isn't even me being like mad at Nylander. It's like it was about why has the team not said anything, but that's the clip that goes in there. Is like, where is William Nylander? Why have we not heard anything? And I watched it and I was like, are you kidding me? The one clip he's going to hear of me saying anything is that?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's going to be a good story one day when you sit down and talk to Willie Nylander. We should have him on the show, and you can just break in and say, Willie, I got to hold on a second here before Merrick
Just so you know.
dying. Just so you know, man. Remember that like Amazon thing, like that. You don't understand the context, man. And you know what Willie's gonna say?
He has no idea.
I have no
Doesn't
idea
know
what the
about
fuck
it.
you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what he's gonna say.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, it's whatever.
All right. So yeah, send in your videos. Oh, by the way, Zach and I were talking about this yesterday. I don't know if you got anywhere on it, but one of the funniest things I ever saw in hockey. You can't find it? There
Dude, I
is
spent
a
so long looking.
Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs game. This would have been when Babcock was coaching. The Maple Leafs call a timeout. Everybody huddles around the bench, and Zdeno Chara skates into the middle of it and just stands there listening to Babcock as nobody does anything. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I'm trying to find the video. I've been trying for years, and it's never popped up. If you know where I can find it.
Yeah,
Zach
I tried
is
so
on
hard.
It. I'm on it.
Yeah.
We're trying to find this thing. It's one. There was another one with Brian Giunta. It was Chara grabbed him by the helmet loops and started dragging him. That was a funny. Chara's done a lot of funny things in his time, and a lot of dangerous things too. Okay, that's it for us. On behalf of Zach, Merrick, wrapping things up here. Thanks to our guests today, the great Sarah Orleski and the great Dave Jackson. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow's Tuesday, so that's a wish day. Wish is tomorrow, correct, Zacharoo? He's doesn't have to preempt for Four Nations or anything. He's still good to go?
Yes, I'm checking in with Wish today.
Okay, sounds good. In the meantime, whatever you do, like you got a free night. You got a go night. Go. Have fun. There's no hockey again as far as NHL hockey, really, until the NHL tournament begins on Wednesday. So enjoy a couple of days. Don't forget Daily Faceoff Live, 7 o'clock Eastern, right here at our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. And we'll talk to you in about 23 hours. How about that? Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for the chat. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.